Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Global Radio and TV Live, and I am your host, Dr. Ravi. The number to call is 469 307 1642 1642. I would like to thank our viewers in United Kingdom. Yes, the United Kingdom has taken over as the number one viewership for Global Radio and TV Live, followed by USA, India, Morocco, United Arab Emirates, Canada, Thailand, Japan, Ukraine, China, Japan, and Korea, as well as, ladies and gentlemen, Iraq. Well, if you haven't heard from, if you haven't seen your country's name on this list, just let us know, and we will include you on that particular list. Well, many of our audience know all topics in Global Radio and TV Live are controversial or conspiracy theories. Well, we don't like any topics that is based upon good science. We have talked here about existence of God. Nothing is more controversial than that one. Sighting of UFOs and aliens, JFK assassination, a big topic here where I live in Dallas. US debt. Remember, there's a guy who's going to come and talk on the show about why US debt is good for America. Now, did you hear this? US debt is actually good for America. Now, we will go into that program next week. And all of these are conspiracy and controversial topics, extremes. There are firm believers and skeptics on both sides. Today we are going to talk about a subject matter, and particularly about an individual, controversial to the core, and there are a lot of people who don't believe in the rights of a separate group of people, or men, women, and so on and so forth. But before we go into that particular topic, ladies and gentlemen, I would like you to see what I'm going to show you right now, and we will start with this particular program here. Let's listen.
We interrupt this program to bring you an intense weather warning. A fierce snowstorm is headed in your direction at this very moment. A blizzard like no other. We caution you to do whatever you can to prepare for this turbulent, non-fluffy flurry of the hottest topics burning up the internet at this very moment. You thought it was simply raining men. Well, now it's actually snowing men. And women. And transgender folks as well. Although this storm originated in Hollywood, it has simply become too powerful for Tinseltown to contain. In fact, it's now a snowstorm of global proportions, engulfing people of all genders and sexual orientations, from all walks of life, in every country, and throughout cyberspace. In the forecast, we have adventures in the world of travel and entertainment, news of current events, sexuality and politics, lifestyle, fitness and spirituality, personal empowerment, pop culture, and more. So grab your snowshoes or take shelter. If you want help with the drifting snow, grab a shovel and get ready to call, chat, or tweet, because a blizzard is inevitable. At the center of the snowstorm is one of the world's primo promo homos on the go-go, Mr. Nicholas Snow himself. His slogan, small screen, big queen, worldwide audience. You heard it before, now you'll hear it again. Over 6 feet of snow has hit the internet. Producer-host Nicholas Snow welcomes guests, contributors, collaborators, partners, sponsors, and audience members from every walk of life, gender, nationality, ethnicity, religion, sexual orientation, and socioeconomic standing from all parts of this world and beyond. While Nicholas Snow offers an openly gay perspective to empower the lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender civil rights movement worldwide, he also seeks to be of service to everyone, everywhere, as a champion for humanity. Snowbiz.
Ladies and gentlemen, yes, now you heard it here. Our featured guest today is Nicholas Snow. Nicholas, welcome to Global Radio and TV Live.
Thank you so much. It's a real pleasure to be here. And congratulations on your show and your international reach.
Well, most welcome, Nicholas. So let's get right to it. Well, one of the latest thing that you have done is the book, the Nicholas Snow Live, the Life Positive book, and also they can find the more information about this on your website, Nicholas Snow Live, and Nicholas is showing his book. Let us start with this book. So, when did you get the excitement and the inspiration and motivation to start writing this book?
Well, in August of 2007, I had a very rare slip in my safer sex behavior. And after decades of having remained HIV negative because I practiced safer sex, I became HIV positive. I was living and working in Bangkok, Thailand at the time as a foreign correspondent, and I could have made the same mistake anywhere. So this is certainly not an indictment of Thailand. I love Thailand. I've spent a lot of time there and very much look forward to going back. But so at any rate, because I had a very high profile in Thailand as a foreign correspondent, and I was also appearing on radio and on television and in newspapers and magazines, I decided to go public with my story. In knowing I was going to go public as a person living with HIV, I began to keep a journal. And I kept a journal for over 2 years that chronicled the entire process, all the ups and the downs and the trials and tribulations and triumphs in my effort to make a difference by expressing the story of my own mistake and inspiring people to know their HIV status and to therefore have a longer, healthier life with that information. So I did ultimately have a press conference at the Foreign Correspondents Club of Thailand and became one of the most visible, openly HIV positive people in Asia. And the journal that I mentioned, I've transformed it into a book, and it's called Life Positive, A Journey to the Center of My Heart. And, my editor writes something very interesting. Well, I'll actually just read what's on the back cover of the book, which gives a nice overview, and then I'll give it to you for follow-up questions. But my editor writes, her name's Kristen Johnson. She writes, in Bangkok, Thailand, Hollywood's primo promo homo on the go-go, Nicholas Snow is eking out a modest living as a foreign correspondent, actor, and media personality when in a moment of personal desperation, he makes a decision that changes his life forever. Decades into the AIDS pandemic and completely armed with the knowledge to protect himself, during a moment of passion with a man who is unaware of having HIV, Nicholas has a rare slip in his safer sex behavior and becomes HIV positive. What might have been the end of a lifetime of dreams turns out to be only the beginning of a remarkable journey that Nicholas himself chronicles in real time as he is living it. Part 12-step program, 4th-step inventory, part reality show on paper, this is the painful yet triumphant saga of how Nicholas Snow uses his own mistake as an opportunity to empower millions of people throughout the world by disclosing not only his HIV status, but his experience, strength, and hope as well. From Hollywood to Bangkok to Bali and beyond, including Kuala Lumpur and Palm Springs, with profound expansion to Singapore, Mumbai, and throughout all of Asia, and ultimately in 21 languages across the globe, Life Positive, A Journey to the Center of My Heart, could easily be titled Eat, Pray, Disclose. So that's the synopsis of the book as written by Kristen Johnson.
Very well written. Very well written. Very, very interesting. As a matter of fact, Nicholas, I actually spent money buying the book.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
And one thing that I found at the early part, before we get into the other details, there was a job opening, and this job is, that you're going to describe this as a real job opening, but it's really not a job opening. And I found that particular 2-page write-up very fascinating to read through. Tell our audience exactly how you came up with that idea of putting up that job opening in your book.
Well, I think that everybody ultimately wants to make a difference in their life. I think that that's the fundamental desire of every person, to make a difference in their life. And having a dream job is part of of that. And I basically I open up the book. Chapter well, the prologue of the book is actually a job opening, and it's the description of the job that I want in my life, and it's simply one page. I mean, I could read it for you if you wanted me to, but basically, it sets the tone for the book. Basically the book is about becoming the person that does the job that I talk about.
But it looks like the way it is written, it's not only thought-provoking, it's also a little comical, because the job is really a job nobody wants.
Yes, exactly. And I think that there are aspects of the job that nobody wants, but there are aspects of the job that people would love.
Right. Okay. Now the next question. This is interesting because there are two problems the gay and lesbian community faces. The problem number one is, should I come out of the closet or not? That's the first part of the deal. Now some folks, unfortunately, like yourself, also gets this dreaded disease or potentially dreaded disease, AIDS, and they become AIDS positive. Now the next step they have to think through is, hey, do I want to come out of the second closet? Because the closets are nested one inside of another. So you come out of the first closet, now you got this problem. Now should I come out of this closet? But now each one of them have their own problems in the society. As a gay person or a lesbian person, you have one set of social problems, and as an individual who has AIDS positive, that is a completely different set of medical problems and social stigma. So what is your suggestion? Because I was reading through that Tinseltown queer mantra that either express yourself the truth and live, or silence is equivalent to death. That's what she wrote. I agree with you totally on that phenomenon, on that particular idea. But the question that comes to my mind is, are there not so many people, because of social stigma and discrimination, they are neither going to come out of the first or the second closet? And what is your suggestion for them to come out of these closets?
Well, thank you for those questions. First of all, the term AIDS positive is not generally used. Someone who is HIV positive may at some point develop AIDS, but I'm living with HIV and I do not have AIDS. And the reason that I don't have AIDS is because I learned what my HIV status is before I began to develop HIV-related illnesses, and I began to take the modern medication that exists for us today. That modern medication eliminates the progression of the disease in my body. It also renders my viral load undetectable. It renders the activity of the HIV in my body to be extremely minimal. And the science is proving that people living with HIV who have undetectable viral loads because of the modern medication are up to 96% less likely to transmit the virus. So short of a cure, the key to ending the AIDS epidemic is for everyone to know their HIV status, for people who confirm they're still HIV negative to reinforce their commitment to staying that way, and for people who learn they are HIV positive to get the modern medication, which keeps them healthy and keeps and dramatically reduces their ability to transmit the disease, which is a key reason I keep telling my story in a variety of ways to make that precise point. Now, regarding and I also want to point out that...
Yeah, I totally agree with you. What you're saying is, and I probably used my words somewhat loosely. AIDS positive is not the same as HIV positive. HIV positive is that you have the virus or virus in some type of a gestational period, or that perhaps there is a potential for virus to develop, whereas AIDS positive is actually a full-blown AIDS that you are suffering from. Is that correct?
Well, they wouldn't use the term AIDS positive, but yes, there is a distinction between being HIV positive and having AIDS.
Right.
But people can live long, healthy lives with both of those conditions. Actually, an AIDS diagnosis can be reversed because of modern medication to that of someone living with HIV. Now, the other question you asked regarding coming out, I had the privilege of being involved in the creation of the first ever National Coming Out Day, which happened in the United States in 1988. And it was featured on the Oprah Winfrey Show and reached national acclaim. And now people around the world know that October 11th every year is National Coming Out Day, and it's become a worldwide event. And the theme of the day is take your next step. Now, this doesn't mean that someone that's coming out as a member of the LGBT community is going on television, but taking your next step could involve telling your close friend or a family member or your parents, or even checking out a book at the library or Googling something that will give you as an individual more understanding. And at the time National Coming Out Day happened, and this is true today, the science shows, the political science shows that people who know they know someone that is LGBT support laws that support us. And people who don't know that they know someone that's a member of our community have often opposed laws that support us. So the reason the world has changed dramatically is because one after another, people have come out of the closet. Now, when the AIDS epidemic began, people were having to come out of two closets because the gay male community was very hard hit with HIV and AIDS. And there were countless instances when someone not only needed to tell their family, yes, I'm gay, but also I have AIDS. And that was was difficult for anyone who had to be in that situation. Even though the science is showing that we can live long, healthy lives with HIV, one of the things that prohibits people from finding out their HIV status is the stigma that still exists directed toward people living with HIV. So I think that it's imperative that we always, we have zero tolerance for stigma in the fight against HIV/AIDS. And as you know, with an international audience, Dr. Ravi, there are some countries worse than others regarding the oppression and discrimination and stigma that exists.
Well, you know, coming back to the time of the Ronald Reagan era, we know that they did not fund the National Institutes of Health for the longest time because it's only gays who are dying, because that was their attitude in early part of 1980s. And naturally, eventually, they have to go back and fund this so that the problem can be taken care of. I was in Washington, D.C. In 1986, or no, actually much after that. There was a big quilt show where there were 56,000 quilts were made. Remember, 50,000 people, gay men and women, have died during that time period in the early 90s. It was the greatest atrocity, in my opinion, that the government would not take care of this particular problem. They could have easily funded this program and prevented the death of at least tens of thousands of gay men in the late 80s. And I was very upset with that. But anyway, I wanted to share that. This is my forum to tell everybody. Okay. Yes.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
All right, welcome. Now, these 12-step recovery meetings, I never heard of this. I have heard of Alcoholics Anonymous meetings and others. What is exactly the 12-step recovery meetings?
Well, the reason I refer to myself as someone who's in 12-step recovery is that it's a tradition of all of these programs that we remain anonymous at the level of media. So I write in my book and I say in interviews that I am a member of 12-step programs, but I do not say which programs that I am in. But a key element in a 12-step program is what is called a fourth step inventory, where someone takes a searching and fearless moral inventory of themselves. They look at I, as someone in recovery, would look at what I have done wrong, who I have wronged, and I would venture to make amends to those people, to clean up my side of the street, and to apologize whenever possible, except when to do so would cause further harm. And so when I'm referring to 12-step programs, I am referring in general to the sorts of programs that you have heard about.
Okay. Well, you know, it is always very difficult, I would imagine, with anyone to live with this situation. But, ladies and gentlemen, we got something else you need to know about Nicholas Snow. Nicholas Snow is not just an activist, but he's also a great artist and singer and songwriter. So our goal now is to show you what is that all about. Ladies and gentlemen, Please listen to this and we will be right back.
And begin out of the dark, let your light shine the way. Knowledge is power, turn the night into day. You're not alone, dance with me. Listen to me, open up, take a chance. Transform your life with this magical dance. Deep in your heart is the power to live. Precious and loved, you have so much to give. You're not alone, dance with me. Message of my song. Within you is the power to be strong. No matter who you are, no matter what you feel, this is your moment now, and your life is real. So get tested and live longer and be strong. Get tested and live longer and be strong. Rhythm and beat are a part of the dance, inflaming your soul, but please don't take a chance. When passion and love ignite flames of desire, take care of yourself, don't get burned by the fire. You're not alone, dance with me. Listen to the message of my song. Within you is the power to be strong. No matter who you are, no matter what you feel, this is your moment now, and your life is real. So play safely and live longer and be strong.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Global Radio and TV Live. You know, you heard that song, fantastic music, fantastic voice. Nicholas, welcome back to our second segment. That was very good. So did you have music lessons?
Yes, I did study singing my whole life growing up, and sang. I've loved it and kept studying it as an adult. Living in Thailand as an entertainment journalist, one of the opportunities I had was to meet one of Thailand's leading music producers, Bruno Brugnano. And Bruno is the equivalent of the Academy Award and Grammy Award winner in Thailand, and he produces music for the royal family and for Thailand's leading artists. And he's scored many films. He's produced over 100 albums, and he's an accomplished songwriter and musician. And also has a very big heart. And I came up with the idea to write this song, and Bruno agreed to produce it for me. And someone else that I met in the context of my entertainment reporting there in Thailand was O Natapan, who is a film and music video director, and he agreed to produce the music video. So a part of my book, Life Positive, A Journey to the Center of My Heart, talks about the genesis of this idea, how it came to fruition, and how the music video ultimately premiered in Mumbai, India, with Hindi subtitles. And the music video has since gone on to be subtitled in 20 languages. So if you count English and the 20 subtitled languages, the message of the song is available in 21 languages. And all of those videos are available for viewing and sharing at youtube.com/the power to be strong. And the MP3 of the song is available on iTunes and worldwide, wherever online music is sold. But a great joy in my own activism and my decision to go public with my story is not only that this song came about, and that I also need to mention Ayano Kimura. She's a fantastic opera singer, and she did backup vocals on the song. And there are many philanthropists who help raise the money to make it all happen. But a great joy of mine was when the Thai subtitled version of the song aired on national television in Thailand, a telethon for the Thai Red Cross AIDS Research Center and in the live studio that night was one of the wonderful Thai princesses. My decision to ultimately tell my story has ultimately reached millions of people around the world in 21 languages.
Wow, fantastic. Well, based upon your own experience in the last, I don't know, 20, 30 years, is there more and more acceptance of gay and lesbian folks in society in various countries? And let's start with America.
Well, of course, in the United States, we've never seen, those of us in the LGBT civil rights movement who have been at this for decades, we're completely stunned by how fast marriage equality has come into being and is sweeping the nation. The flip side of the coin, though, is that the people that oppose us, that hate us, are becoming more hateful and vitriolic than ever. They're fueled by complete television networks and media machines, such as the Fox News Network or the 700 Club.
Right.
But truth is prevailing. And in the United States, over 50% of the states in the United States now have marriage equality or are about to, based upon the decisions that are taking place. Now we have, have you heard of the phrase that says like 2 steps forward, 1 step back?
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah. So, for example, in Singapore, they recently upheld as constitutional a law that outlaws sex between men. The sodomy law has been upheld in Singapore. In India, the law that makes homosexuality illegal was overturned, but then reinstated. In Malaysia, in just the last 24 hours, the law that prohibited cross-dressing has just been found as unconstitutional. So that's a huge piece of progress for transgendered individuals in Malaysia, where I had the opportunity to travel with my song. My book was not out yet, but I went to Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, and I had the opportunity to meet some of the most special cutting-edge advocates for change in that country around the issues of LGBT civil rights and also the rights of people living with HIV and AIDS, and the fight against the epidemic as well. So what we have is a global movement that is making progress. But, they say until everybody's, I don't know if it's Martin Luther King or some great person said, until all of us are free, no one is free.
Right.
So, I'm living in one of the gayest cities on earth, Palm Springs, California. Our Pride celebration is coming up this weekend, the first full weekend of November 2014. Our festival is Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. We take over downtown. Our mayor is gay. 2 of our city council members are lesbian or gay. We were ranked number 4 on a worldwide list of the top friendliest LGBT travel destinations. And we're in California, where we have marriage equality, and we have countless laws that empower us because of the work of organizations like Equality California, for example. This is the best case scenario available to people on the planet today, basically where I live. But my heart still goes out to people that are subject to death. You know, and there are countries where people are still put to death because they're perceived to be LGBT. And then we have the radical right-wing religious forces in the United States and elsewhere that are empowering homophobia and anti-LGBT sentiment in all over the world, in places like Uganda and Russia. You can trace the dramatic, hateful shifts in these countries to the work of anti-LGBT zealots, religious zealots that are based in the United States. Thank God, just one more quick point. Thank God we do have a separation of church and state in our country. And I think that through the democratic process, we will prevail for all of humanity.
Very good. I totally agree with you there. Well, let's talk about some more difficult issues facing gay and lesbian community as individuals. The first thing that probably you can tell us from your own personal experience, the number one cause of apprehension among the gay and lesbian folks would be their own family in many instances. Or did you face serious problem with your own family when you told them, hey, this is what I am?
Well, I came out in the early 1980s. So we live in a very different world now than we did then. But I grew up in Arizona. I grew up in Flagstaff, Arizona. And I didn't really know how conservative my family was at the time because I had grown up in the family and had a fairly narrow worldview as the result of growing up in a conservative Republican family. I will acknowledge my family in that my family were not religious fundamentalists, so they weren't coming at their opposition to things that I currently believe in based upon their religious viewpoint. My grandmother, may she rest in peace, Margaret Milstead, she was quite lovely when I came out of the closet in the early 80s. She was a bit surprised, but she was ahead of her time in many ways, and she had a party for me, and she invited some older gentlemen that she knew from her quilting club that she knew were gay. Mm-hmm. And she just wanted to introduce me to people that might be supportive of me in life. My mother was ultimately extremely supportive, and frankly, my whole family came around the LGBT issues. My grandmother, though, you know, she wasn't shocked or mortified that I came out of the closet, but she was really shocked and mortified to learn that I had that I was no longer a Republican and had become a registered Democrat.
That's that there is always a comedic end to every subject matter, no matter how hard or difficult it is to deal with. The next question, this is again an issue that is haunting a lot of different people. Most gay friends of mine, okay, they're all atheists. So the question I want to ask you is, are you an atheist?
I am not an atheist at all. I have a really solid and firm belief of a power greater than myself. But let me describe my spiritual philosophy, you see. So I honor and embrace any part of any teaching that celebrates the universal equality of humanity. And I reject any part of any teaching that in order to be right has to make other people wrong. And when you look at the aspects of all of the world's religions that really are about manifesting the greatest teachings of Buddha and of Muhammad and of Jesus Christ and of all of the great religious leaders, if you look at the core fundamentals of loving your neighbor as yourself, only good things come out of that. It's when we get into black and white thinking where we have to make other people wrong in order to manifest the sustenance of our own beliefs that I think that's that's the core of all of the world's greatest problems. People don't want to admit that their belief system may be off, so they have to continue to fight for it and against anything that could oppose it. But let's just say there is no God. Let's say there's no life after death. My faith transforms my experience of life here and now. I have a much more satisfying and fulfilling life because I have a faith in a power greater than myself. And it informs me, it guides me, it takes me through tough times. I like the metaphor that I have legions of angels that swoop in and carry me through the tough times. This doesn't mean that those legions of angels literally exist, but I find that my faith in a higher power is extremely beneficial. And I would like to say that in every major denomination, any major religious denomination in the world, there are congregations that have developed to serve the LGBT community that are separate and apart from the mainstream denominations, but many of the mainstream denominations are transforming in terms of their view of the LGBT community as well. So one of the reasons that you may have a lot of gay friends who are atheists is because they've been shunned by religious and spiritual communities their entire lives.
Well, you are absolutely correct, because, many of the religions perhaps telling that the homosexuality is not sanctioned by the God. Now, let's turn this around and ask you another question, because we would like to get the answer from a scientific point of view. From the scientific point of view, the biology dictates, or the theory of natural selection, dictates the propagation of the species is critical. That means the species has to continue. Now we know that not only in the human subjects, the human beings, but also in animal kingdom, other than humans. Well, we humans are also animals, but let's not go there. There is 10% of all animals, all mammals, irrespective of species, are gay or are homosexually oriented. Now, what is the reason behind this? Because that is a great mystery to me personally as a scientist. Why would a natural selective process will produce a certain small segment, a 10% of population, who has no interest in sexual mating with the other sex? Did you think through this? Why such a phenomenon actually exists?
Well, everyone that I talk to who is a member of the LGBT community believes that they were born that way and that it was not a choice, and I would concur. I'm not a scientist, but the research, I believe, leans heavily toward the fact that being attracted to the same gender is in fact genetic. It is something that we're born with, and
in other words, what you are saying is that there is varying degrees of attraction towards the same sex. Is that what you're saying?
Well,
also
Kinsey's research has demonstrated that there is a continuum of sexuality. I think if you removed all of the religious and social persecution of sexual expression, that human beings, that our sexuality would be much more fluid, that we would be less likely to identify ourselves with labels such as gay or straight. I think that human beings have the deep-seated potential to love anyone, and that it is the reasons that we might fight off the reasons that are, let's say someone identifies themselves as heterosexual. I think that the reason that person might fight off true romantic and sexual attraction to someone of the same gender have to do with the teaching that has existed. I think that human beings could be much more fluid in their sexuality. But I also concur that there are people that are heterosexual, and they'll always be heterosexual, and that's not going to change. And, I had a very passionate relationship with a girlfriend early in my adult life. I certainly have the capability of being sexual with a woman, but ultimately I learned that mentally, physically, spiritually, and emotionally, I'm a gay man. So I haven't pursued a relationship with women sexually or romantically since then.
I see. So okay, now I'm trying to understand how a gay man works or thinks, and now I'm trying to understand, as a matter of fact, that my interest in a man would be, according to your scale of things, it would be practically nil.
Well,
And your interest.
you would have to speak to that. You would have to speak to that yourself. But there are, I think that if you say you're a complete heterosexual, I would believe you. But I think that there are lots of
Well, I would
men
not come
who
on the public TV and say, "Well, I have 1% of
you're 1% gay.
1% gay." Well, maybe when I was 17 years old, I was looking here or there. Well, I've been.
Well, when you're 17 years old, you're just horny all the time, and you'll look anywhere.
Okay, so that's a very good point, by the way. Now I understand exactly how this works to some extent. Here is most interesting social aspect of this. You see, now when you are a gay man or a heterosexual man, I would imagine the underlying genetic predisposition to have as many partners as possible in the shortest period of time and have fun with all of them for a heterosexual man is very clear, because an heterosexual man wants to have fun with a bunch of women at the shortest period of time and as many as he can. Now, I would imagine that tendency for a gay man doesn't change, correct? In other words,
Well,
you are now
actually,
interested in a lot of men, and the good thing about that is all the other men are also in the same psychological mold. Now, you see, the heterosexual men have a problem because their partners are not interested in having as much sex as possible with every man out there. So there is a serious conflict here. But in your situation, I would imagine this is a heaven.
well, actually, there are. I think that there is no one set circumstance that would apply to the gay community. You have to remember that we've grown up in a world that has not fostered our relationship. They've fought us at every turn.
Right.
So it's not like I could as a teenager, when I was a teenager, this has changed thankfully in a lot of school systems, but it's not like when I was a teenager, I would have learned about what it was to be gay and know that I was created that way and meet some other gay guy in my class and ask him to the spring dance. So we haven't lived in a culture that is socialized long-term romance, monogamy, and marriage the way that it has for heterosexuals throughout the world. But even in the face of that, there are same-sex couples that have been monogamous for decades. I personally want to be I'm single right now, but I personally want to be in a long-term monogamous relationship. I didn't fight my whole life for civil rights to not benefit from marriage equality one day. But I respect anybody that doesn't want that for themselves. If if there's someone that wants to go out, male, female, straight, gay, bisexual, and have lots of sex with multiple partners, more power to them, as long as it's safe, sane, and consensual.
Okay, fair enough. All right, the next thing is we need to take a very quick break. And this Nicholas Snow show that you have, where can we? Is it ongoing right now? And tell our audience a little bit more about it, and then we'll take a quick break.
I have a very extensive YouTube channel, and I have a podcast that has had 1.6 million downloads in 26 months. The podcast is called Nicholas Snow Live. But my YouTube channel, my podcast, my book, my acting clips, everything is available from NicholasSnowLive.com.
Okay, Nicholas Snow Live. Okay, it's now the okay now what we would like to do is to go ahead and continue this conversation just after this small break here. The snob is now from previous one that we stopped halfway through. Ladies and gentlemen, you are listening to Global Radio and TV Live, and our featured guest is Nicholas Snow. And let's continue for a few more minutes with the clip.
Now is brought to you by Nicholas Snow Productions. For everything you may wish to know about our company, to contact us about buying advertising or procuring our syndicated content, or to submit questions, comments, breaking news, or gossip, simply visit snowbiznow.com. Once again, that's snowbiznow.com. Until next time, thank you for being a part of the snowstorm. We're honored by your presence.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Global Radio and TV Live. We just finished up that portion there. Turns out that won't stop. Okay. All right. Let's see if our technicians can get that thing done. There you go. All right. Ready? Okay. Nicholas, welcome back to our final segment. We have about 10-15 minutes left. We definitely want to play that music one more time. Coming back to our last segment, I still want to ask you a few questions about this same scenario. You said that you wanted to be in a monogamous relationship. Is that common for, again, I think I probably don't want to be stereotyping anything. Based upon, I can see from an intuitive point of view, the lesbian community where they have a much more tendency to be in a monogamous relationship because of their women first and then lesbian second. Is that a possibility?
Well, I'm not a woman clearly, and I don't think it's fair for me to speak for them. But I do believe that from everything I've read and everything that I've heard, that a woman's approach to a relationship is more emotionally based, and a man's approach to a relationship could be casual and sexual more easily. But that also is tied in with what we're taught, and also I think the sexual oppression of women.
Yes.
And the fact that we're living in a patriarchal society. Ideally, I would like to see a world where if people want a monogamous relationship, they can have one. If people want an open relationship, they can have one. If people want to stay single, they can have one. It's about life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and based upon who an individual is and what they truly want, and without mandates by government, religion, or society.
Well, that's absolutely a very good point. Now, the next question. This is a question that always intrigued my thought process. What about having children? Now, what is the position of having children in the gay and lesbian community? What are the problems that they face? Now, one thing that is very clear, neither party can have children on their own unless they get help from the other party. All right, now the other party doesn't have to be lesbian. The other party can be heterosexual, or it doesn't matter. So, first, let me ask you personally yourself, would you like to have children, or you already have children?
I do not have children, and I don't foresee having children of my own because I'm 52 years old. But, sexual orientation and the desire to be a parent are two different issues. So, I mean, clearly, if a man and a woman get married, it's much easier for them to have their own biological children. But many people in that situation, as deeply as they want children, they are not able to have them for whatever reason.
Right.
And there's plenty of kids in the world that want and need homes. And also, lots of members of the LGBT community were married with kids before they came out. And for a long, long time, we have found creative ways to have our own children through surrogacy, through adoption, through foster care. So I believe that the goal is to empower families of all shapes sizes, and diversity, and to celebrate people that want to create families and to have children and to make the world a better place. So also a lot of people say that sex is for procreation, but if you look at all of the sex that is going on in the world, even among people who hold that view, if they were procreating every time they were having sex, we would need 10 planet Earths to sustain the population.
Well, you see, anybody who is having sex, they are absolutely not thinking about procreation or children. That I know for sure. Okay.
Yes,
so
I would say so. And I think sex is great. I would like to have more of it, but I think that the goal is to eliminate stigma and oppression around people's natural or chosen sexual expression, as long as it's safe, sane, and consensual, and of course among adults.
Right. Well, some of the things the parents always worry about. You see, if my son comes tomorrow, he's 12 years old, and he says, "Well, I'm gay." Now, I'm not worried about him being gay. Okay, he hasn't told me anything, by the way. Okay, but what I would be worried is, I will be worried about the treatment that he's going to get on the society out there, and all the different things that normally that goes around, that he is now not necessarily is going to miss, but he has to deal with an entirely different set of scenarios. That is what would give me the great pain or sorrow. Now, this as a parent I'm talking. So now those parents, what is your advice to those parents whose children may one day turn out to be gay? How do they cope with it? As a gay man to a parent talking and advising them, how do you reduce their sorrow?
Well, frankly, there's nothing to be sad about if you find out you have a gay child. It's something to be celebrated. What every parent needs to do that wants to create a safe world for their kids is to fight for a fair and just world. And even though your son is 12 years old and for all practical purposes may be heterosexual, you can bet your son has classmates that are in fact gay or lesbian or bisexual. And they are dealing with this right now at the age of 12. Believe me, they're struggling. So what we need to make sure is that there are gay-straight alliances in all the schools, that human sexuality is taught fairly, justly, and accurately, and that all of us continue to advance laws that make discrimination and against the community illegal, and we need to empower the full expression and self-actualization of every life on the planet. So the way that we deal with an individual situation of one child is to make sure the world is safe for all children.
Very good point. That is a very good point. As a matter of fact, if somebody is going to be born as a gay person, gay or lesbian or transgender, this is nothing anybody can do. This is how it is. They were born with a genetic makeup. Therefore, you are absolutely right in saying that the parents, the school, and the system has to make sure that they are not discriminated, that there is nothing to be feel sad about, and continue with life and do the best you can for yourself and others. So I totally agree with that point. I think this is a great point you just brought up. So in other words, what you are saying is the schools have to have the gay-straight alliance. What is that exactly between the students?
Schools all over the United States, many of them have gay-straight alliances, where basically kids from all walks of life get together to talk about issues of LGBT equality and to make their schools safer. Many communities have LGBT prom. So, for example, here in Palm Springs, California, all of the gay-straight alliances from throughout the Coachella Valley get together and they have their own prom, and it's a beautiful event. basically, the solution is for all of us at every level of our lives and our engagement with government, with religion, with culture, is to create a world that is fair and just, and that where everyone can grow up loving and appreciating themselves, who they are, and having a full experience of life.
So the interesting point is that any discrimination against any minority group um, is actually, of course, it's not good. But there is one problem that the gay parents of the gay children might suffer from, that if they are so homophobic, they will be cursed. But it's not a real curse, but they don't, it's in their head, it's their perception of what the gay people are going through. That's right? Because it's not really a problem at all.
Well, there are a lot of parents out there that are really trapped inside their own spiritual and ideological beliefs, and when their children have come out to them, they've thrown their children out of the house.
Right. I have seen that. Yes,
when you look at LGBT youth, the incidence of homelessness is much higher. The incidence of suicide is much higher. So that is why we have to all be vigilant at every level of engagement with our world to solve these issues, because there are people who are trapped in homophobic homes, in small communities,
yes,
surrounded by religious bigotry and oppression.
Yes.
And all over the world, there are entire countries that are dampened by sort of national religious viewpoints. But these national religious structures, they're stereotypical. Let me give you an example, right? So Thailand is a Buddhist country, and you would think that Buddhism is very accepting. And the impression of the Muslim faith is quite different from that of the Buddhist faith.
Yes.
But when I've been in Malaysia and Indonesia, I have found the Muslim people that I've met to be incredibly loving. And I have really enjoyed what I've learned about their religion and their culture. Eliminating stereotypes of all types is
so when you told them that you are gay in Indonesia and Malaysia, majority Muslim population, they did not treat you as bad as the same situation in Thailand? Is that what you were saying?
Well, no. What I'm saying is Thailand is a very friendly place, which you would expect as a Buddhist country.
Right.
And if you believe all the stereotypes against Muslim people, you would not expect to have the same sort of warm welcome in a country that's predominantly Muslim.
Right.
But I did. I have loved my opportunity to meet people from all over the world of different faiths and backgrounds, and loved my time in Kuala Lumpur. I spent 18 days there talking about the great services of the PT Foundation. Their website is ptfmalaysia.org. They're a champion for people that are living with HIV and AIDS in Malaysia. And in Kuala Lumpur, the PT Foundation does great HIV testing.
PT stands
for? And
for?
also ptfmalaysia.org.
PTF stands for? The acronym?
I think it stands for Pink Triangle Foundation.
Okay.
But that now they go by the PT Foundation. And I did a national television interview in Kuala Lumpur on Bernama TV. If you search Nicholas Snow Bernama Television, you can find the national TV interview I did in Malaysia.
Okay.
So I guess the bottom line point that I'm making is we cannot stereotype religions, countries, groups of people. We need to realize that there are enlightened, transformative, loving, cutting-edge, visionary human beings all over the world of all shapes and sizes, and those who oppose us are also from all shapes of sizes. The importance is for all of us to express the truth of our lives to the people we can influence, to share knowledge that we have, and to put this message out in the world. And I want to say, if someone watching has a religious viewpoint that is about limiting others consider evolving your religious viewpoint.
Very good. Nicholas, before we go, I want you to show our audience where they can find the book and where are they available?
Yes, my book is available in paperback at lifepositivebook.com. But everything, the book, the music video, my podcast, my acting clips, my contact information, it's all available at nicholassnowlive.com. nicholassnowlive.com.
So, ladies and gentlemen, you heard it here, nicholassnowlive.com. Nicholas, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much. In Thailand, I would go like this.
Yes.
Khop khun krap.
And namaste.
Yes, namaste.
Well, Nicholas, please stay on the line. And ladies and gentlemen, we will be right back. There you go.